Okay, and well, we're back in this week with more of Radio Culture Shock. And today we're very excited because we have a former guest, a former host back, right?
Old? Thank you for the old.
Yeah, it's former. I was looking for former. And Alicia is with us today. So, as every week, we are here with Nathaniel, myself, and now we have Alicia and one very special guest. Nathaniel, would you like to introduce our guest?
So our guest this week is Dr. Angel Tuninetti from the University of West Virginia in the United States. He is here with us for about 6 weeks?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. 4 weeks here at the UPAEP. He is offering a taller and will be giving a conferencia or two, hosted here by the Department of Languages. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the taller and the course that you're offering to our students?
Well, hello. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be back at UPAEP. This is my second time at UPAEP, and actually I'm doing a combination of things. I didn't expect to be on radio, but I'm on radio too. I'm teaching a workshop on intercultural communication, and I'm participating in one of the classes in idiomas, and also I taught 2 classes in gastronomía. I'm giving a lecture on Argentinian literature with the Maestría de Estudios Históricos, so I'm doing a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. And what is your area of specialty? How did you so your primary area of study is Argentine literature, or
actually it's travel literature in South America, but well, I work at the university in which we have to teach a little bit of everything. So I'm somebody say here I'm the ajonjolí de todos los moles.
And when did you come the last time to UPAEP?
I came in April 2018 as part of an faculty exchange organized by CONAHEC, a consortium of North American universities, of which UPAEP and West Virginia University are members. And at that time, I did an exchange with Professor Paola Vera Baez in Gastronomía. And, well, during that visit, there was just 1 week, we started the conversations that ended up with me being back here.
Nice.
And what, so over in Gastronomía, so what
course?
What I'm doing, basically.
A little bit of everything.
I know that your question is, what is a literature professor doing in Gastronomía?
Yeah,
Sounds
interesting.
Well, the thing is that last year I had to teach a seminar in my university for students of Spanish, and one upper level seminar that basically is open to any topic that the professor wants to use. And I love culinary anthropology. This is one of the topics that I really like to read on my own, and of course I like to cook and eat also. And so I prepared a course that was called Panorama Culinario de las Américas for that seminar. And when CONAHEC, this consortium, called for this kind of competition for faculty exchanges, I sent my proposals to see, my course proposal to see if I was going to find any professors in Mexico interested in doing the exchange, and I was very lucky that Paola in Gastronomía, who teaches culinary anthropology, took the challenge, and it was a great experience because we connected our group of students through video and had some activities shared. And then I came here, and basically last year I talked mostly about culinary traditions in Argentina. And this year I did the same, but this year I added a demonstration of mate and drinking mate. So it was, I think, a very interesting experience for the Mexican students to try mate.
Yeah, I would imagine. So So, other than mate, what culinary traditions do you include in this course? So
Well,
it's from Latin America in general.
Yeah,
So,
the course that I taught at my university, it was basically an overview of the main culinary regions of Latin America, based on and also in the United States, the Hispanic tradition, culinary traditions in the United States. But when I came here, well, what do you identify with Argentinian gastronomy?
beef.
Beef, exactly. So basically, one of the classes was to talk about why beef is that. Basically, I made a comparison in the same way that Mexican gastronomy is based on corn. For us, it's based on beef, and I gave kind of an overview of the historical, economic, and political reasons why basically we eat so much beef.
So truly interdisciplinary then.
Yeah, truly interdisciplinary. Yeah.
That sounds very interesting.
And actually, that is going to be tied to the conference that the lecture that I'm going to give for the Maestría de Estudios Históricos, because I'm going to talk about gaucho culture and literature, which is very closely tied to the evolution of Argentinian beef economy.
Okay, really interesting. We are going to introduce the topic of today. So, for us, it's a pleasure to be with you here. Thank you for being here. And today we're going to talk. It's about cultural diversity. So we are going to do like a mix of different points of view of us, and absolutely talk about Mexican culture, about Argentina culture, about American culture. So we are gonna do like a mix of everything.
Remix. Right? Yeah. And before we start, I just want to invite the people who are listening to us. Usually, as you know, we have the Vox Populi, but this week there were some technical difficulties that made it impossible. But we invite our listeners to answer one of those questions. Well, the questions that we have for the Vox Populi are mention 3 words that are related to culture. What is the most representative thing or symbol for you about the Mexican culture? What do you think a foreigner thinks of or thinks about when he listens to the word Mexican culture? Would you like to speak an indigenous language? If it's like that, which one and why? And why do you think it's important to, why do you think the preservation of indigenous languages is important in Mexico? So if you would like to answer that in the comments, we'll be very happy to read you and to reply to you as well. And yeah, so let's get started with this, right?
Well, the occasion, I suppose, for the theme this week is, and we'll talk about this a little bit more about what's going on tomorrow, is the Nican Festival, which is hosted by the Department of Languages and will be going on here on the Central Campus tomorrow. And what does Nican mean? Do we remember?
It means I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Angie was explaining to me that it's where the name of the canicas comes from, right?
Okay.
You know, like marbles. And so that's what this is going to be a super big fiesta tomorrow, right? Because the Central Campus is going to be full of many things going on by very different departments, which is a very nice thing, right? Because it's a lot of combinations between the departments. And it's not only the Decanato of Estudios en Lengua y Cultura, it's also other decanatos which are working with us, as well as the Miércoles de Integración, which is normally what happens on a Wednesday. And we're going to have a presentation of different stands with different cultures.
Different indigenous culture, and there are so many. There are like 6 or 7 that are Zapoteco, Maya, Nahuatl,
Tzotzil.
Yeah, Mixteco, I think so, Purepecha, and we as the major students that are from languages teaching and cultural diversity, we are going to do like one stand about Nican specific culture, and we are going to. That it's gonna be like a big party tomorrow. So.
A big party. It's not just a stance from the students of the major, and you will be able, well, people will be able to go talk to them and get to know about, to get to know more about the culture they're representing that day. And there's also going to be workshops, right, on the use of the different types of corn. There's going to be another workshop given by Edith. I don't remember exactly on what that is, but Edith is giving another workshop. And we also have the main, the cherry on top is the Concurso de Salsas. It's a sauce contest in which students from UPAEP will be able to participate by themselves or in teams, and they're going to have to cook salsa. And then, well, there will be...
Molcajeteada.
Yes, it has to be molcajeteada, right?
But we need to translate that.
Yeah, the molcajete. The molcajete is this special kind of bowl, right? This is kind of rock bowl. This is special,
mortar.
very specific.
Yeah.
It's like a mortar, yes.
And pestle, yeah.
In mortar and pestle, yeah.
Yes.
And made from stone. Right?
This very specific stone, yes, and it has to be done there, right? At least part of the process has to go through the mortar. And well, Nathaniel and myself will be guests. We'll be judges tomorrow in the contest.
I'm
and
looking forward to that.
Dr. Tuninetti didn't want to be one of the judges.
I will not stand the heat.
Yes. Oh, funny fact. Last year there wasn't water for the judges to drink. So that was probably very
But
difficult.
you don't want to drink water when you...
Well, not
When
really,
you
but if
drink
you're
the
trying a
sauce.
lot.
It is true. I heard that alcohol is the best way to clean the...
I agree
So
with that,
Milk.
tequila will be...
Milk is the
Tequila
best
or
way.
Milk,
Yeah.
probably.
No, but the,
Tequila, oh my
because
god,
the-
we are in the university.
I'm gonna burn, right?
we are in Mexico.
it's the oils of the chile that they don't mix with water, right? So water won't help to calm the chile, or won't be as effective because it won't combine with the oil from the chiles. So yeah,
Well,
better time.
it'd be interesting to try the tequila when you, yeah. Okay. So all of that is happening. Also, Bellas Artes is doing a presentation, and we're just gonna have also a contest organized by UPAEP, and well, there are many things happening tomorrow. Please don't miss it. We'll start at 11. Is that right?
At 10 a.m.
10 a.m. 10 a.m. until 2:30 approx.
2:30.
So it's gonna be a whole day of fiesta, and yeah. So we'll wait. We hope that you can come and let's have fun. So we'll start with the diversity that exists in Mexico, right? Let's get into this topic. First, of course, the most representative cultures that we have is the Nahuatl culture, right? We have the Mayan culture. Well, Nahuatl culture represents 20% of the population.
Yeah.
Then we also have the Mayan, which is an 11.5%. We have another one that is going to be represented in the Nican Fest is the Zapoteco culture. We have the Tzotzil culture, which is from northern Chiapas.
Okay.
And we still use some words from them. And Mazateco, we also have those. And finally, we have the Purepecha, which is the final stand that you will be able to find in the Nican Fest. So let's start with the Nahuatl culture. We're the guys here at Radio Culture, the U Radio, sorry, they're going to project this first set of pictures. It's like a collage, as you will be able to see. To show you the most representative dressing of the Nahuatl culture. As you can see, we have a guy and a girl representing both ways of dressing. The region that it represents, all that region in Mexico. We also have the food, the gastronomy. Look at that. We have the, how would you say, handcrafts? Yes.
Artisania, handcrafts. Yeah.
Artisan handcrafts. That's like a chicken or a dove. Depends on how you want to look at that. And it's very colorful. Then we also have the pulque, which in Puebla is a very popular drink. Because remember that Puebla has a very representative Nahuatl population. And, well, we also have the cempasúchil. right? This super representative flower, especially for Day of the Dead.
Sometimes we can the Nahuatl culture is not just like the Nahuatl culture. There is also a language. So some people think that is just the language or that is just the culture. They are both, and they are in different parts of Mexico. So that is like the biggest one in the Indigenous culture in Mexico.
Yes, and as you can remember, we've had Beto from the major here as a guest, and he was explaining to us that within the Nahuatl culture, there's also variations, right? And for example, he was telling us that he doesn't speak Nahuatl, but he speaks Nahuatl, right? And which is, it has slight variations and so on. But, well, anyone in Mexico knows pulque, and everyone has tried it at least once. And Dr. Toniete, have you tried the pulque?
Of course.
Yeah, did you like it?
Not so much.
Not
I
so
have to say. I have to be honest. It's
The
a
consistency?
flavor. Yes, it's the consistency. That's
Yes.
kind of viscosity that is
Yes.
a little bit.
Yes, I agree.
pudding.
I agree with you. It's like pudding, okay. That's a nice description. Okay, so I think we're gonna go to a break, and we'll be back with more of Culture Shock.
UPAEP, rumbo al 50 aniversario. Misión.
Crear corrientes de pensamiento y formar líderes que transformen a la sociedad, en la búsqueda de la verdad, integrando fe, ciencia y vida. Valores.
Junto a la verdad, el bien y la belleza, nuestra universidad sostiene como valores rectores la dignidad de la persona humana, la libertad, la solidaridad, la subsidiariedad, la congruencia, el respeto, el amor y la justicia. Visión.
Somos una comunidad universitaria fraterna, congruente, alegre y comprometida, que es referente en la conjunción del pensamiento humanista, cristiano y las ciencias, que forma integralmente líderes con alta calidad profesional y compromiso social. Contribuye a la transformación de la sociedad con propuestas pertinentes, orientadas a la consecución del bien común. Tiene presencia e influencia en los ámbitos local, regional, nacional e internacional. Centra la gestión en la persona y optimiza los recursos al servicio de la misión institucional. Líneas rectoras.
Atreverse a vivir congruentemente nuestra identidad, como ejemplo de virtud en el servicio, con respeto y amor al prójimo, para la transformación social en orden al bien común.
Privilegiar a través de la academia la formación humanista cristiana en busca de la excelencia científica y profesional, con pensamiento universal y trascendencia social.
Crear sistemas académicos de auténtica pertinencia social, a través de la docencia, investigación y extensión, para enriquecer la cultura y participar en la solución de los problemas fundamentales del país.
Involucrarse en la formación y desarrollo intercultural de la comunidad universitaria a través de ámbitos y vínculos de internacionalización.
Lograr ambientes de confianza, colaboración y servicio, dentro de una cultura de austeridad, transparencia y evaluación. UPAEP, rumbo al 50 aniversario.
Vida de Estudiambre presenta No te quedes en tu casa.
Si disfrutas admirar la ciudad, es momento de hacerlo desde las alturas. Sí, no puedes perderte la vista panorámica desde la Estrella de Puebla. La rueda de observación, considerada la más grande de Latinoamérica por sus 80 metros de altura. La Estrella de Puebla, el sitio de tu interés.
Okay, and we're back. And let's talk about the second culture that's going to be represented tomorrow in the Nican Fest. And it's the Mayan culture. So we have very interesting things here, especially food. Oh yes, they have the cochinita pibil, which is a delicious dish. It's usually prepared with well, the extras that you can add is the cebolla morada, right? This purple onion.
But what is in it? Because I'm not sure if I've
pig
if
meat.
I've tried. It is pork.
Yeah, it's pork, and
Okay.
it's this in a very special kind of sauce or recado, which we
Okay.
call, right?
And is
With
it,
achiote. With
Yes.
the red color.
Okay.
And wrapped in banana leaves.
okay.
And well, what we add to the taco, usually there is it in tacos. We add the cebolla morada, right? And habaneros. That's,
Okay. So is it
necessary.
like michote or is it like?
Not really.
No, it isn't.
No,
Okay,
it's
so I'm
the
confusing
flavor
things.
is very
Okay.
different. The
Okay.
flavor is very different. But yeah, it's a delicious dish that I consider a treasure. I love it. Whenever I see a good place that prepares it, I like having at least a taco, right? And we have this very interesting drink, which is the saka. The saka is based on nixtamal, right? It's based on corn, and it's this very. Remember that? Well, as you can see in the map that we're showing, the location of the Mayan civilization is a very well-known part of Mexico and South America, which is super hot, right? So this corn-based drink is to refresh, to cold your body because it's in a constant exposure to heat. And anything else to add?
There is the archaeological zone is in Yucatan, is in Mérida, Yucatan, is in Chichen Itza. This is like the main point or the main location of this culture. One of this part of the culture is also in, I don't remember if Guatemala or Belize. I don't remember. But it's also in that part, and there are too many speakers. There are 1,475,000. So there is like the one of the biggest indigenous cultures here in Mexico, and also is like is one of the most popular because Yucatan is really touristic. Chichen Itza is really touristic, so too many people know this culture.
And one of the early settlements was Palenque, yes, which still not very sure what happened that made them move farther east and north. But yeah, as we know, they were very exact with their mathematics. Some historians attribute the creation of zero to the Mayan culture. And well, we also can see their calendar there.
The calendar.
Yes, and they were very precise. They were the first culture to get super ultra close to the duration of a year. They marked it as 365.24 days. So, which is why every 4 years we get an extra day.
Then I think it's interesting, and I think, to point out, right, so you mentioned that the center of the Mayan civilization in the Yucatan and in Guatemala and that region, but that, like a lot of these cultures, I mean, that it was the boundaries of these cultures, right? And these cultures interacted. A lot of the Mesoamerican cultures, share traits, whether it's religious traits or whether it's architectural commonalities or gastronomic practices. I mean, a lot of them using corn, right, being at the basis of their economy and of their food and sustenance and all that sort of thing. So to think of these as distinct groups, but also to think of them as, there's a lot of complexity in the periodization, right? When the Mayans were around, when different cultures were around, and to get to a point that Alicia mentioned earlier, right? That language, culture, like oftentimes it's both. It's not just referring to a language that we can still hear spoken today, but also that these languages correspond to cultures. And when we refer to the Maya language, I mean, there are many different types of many languages that fall under that larger umbrella.
Yeah, exactly. Just like we were talking with the Nahuatl, right? And finally, let's talk about the third representative group that we will have tomorrow in the Nican Fest. we have the Zapoteca culture, which we were talking about. Alicia is going to be in charge of presenting this tomorrow. And she was telling us that she doesn't have iguana tamales. We wanted to try iguana tamales, right?
That's really hard to find.
Dr.
iguana in a
Tunieti tells us that he has heard that it tastes like chicken. So it's probably not that, it'd be easier to try it. What about the drink? What's a typical drink there, Alice?
Okay, that I found it is like the cacao. I don't know the exactly name, but is like you are the person who is doing is I don't know the name of this.
How would you say this?
This one.
Molinillo.
Molinillo, but in English, you
It's
don't
like
know?
steering.
It's
Like
hard.
stirring or whisking or
Yeah, but
It's with a very specific instrument.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
with
yeah.
a specific
Yeah.
instrument,
Whisker.
and it's like
a
a.
whisker or something like
There
that.
is
Because it
like
gets hairy.
chocolate, but it's not hot. It's cold, and this culture is from Oaxaca. Like Oaxaca is like the biggest state in Mexico, so I think that this is like a bigger culture also. The meal or the main food there is tamales de iguana. That is we are going to talk about. That is really hard to find tamales de iguana in Puebla, so we are gonna try to do something like this. Don't worry about it. And the vestimenta is kind of interesting because they're used like in every part of the body flowers. They use a lot of flowers in their dressing, so it's one of them. It's really good. This culture is really cool. I really like it.
Okay. So, well, those are 3 of the 6 that will be representing tomorrow in the Nican Fest. We invite you again to come and check them out. Now, let's go with Argentina's indigenous cultures. Let's see if what Dr. Tunieti can tell us about that.
It's a very interesting phenomenon because if you talk to a lot of people in Argentina, you will notice that first that the presence of the indigenous cultures are not as prevalent as they are here. Mm-hmm. And the reason is a historical one, that basically most indigenous cultures were wiped out in the 19th century. Or in some cases they were just displaced, and there was a really, the only proper word to describe what happened in central Argentina and northern Argentina in the 19th century is a genocide, right? And but even then, we have a significant number of indigenous cultures. I was looking at the numbers of the last census in 2010, and there are approximately 1 million people that identify as indigenous, mm-hmm. which in a country of 40 is a significant percentage. Mm-hmm. And about 30 plus groups that are the main communities. Many of them, unfortunately, have been over the years basically lost their languages, or in some cases, for example, the Yamana people from Tierra del Fuego. I think there is only one speaker left in the Chilean part of Tierra del Fuego, and probably 150 people that identify as members of the group, and many of them are mestizos, and actually I'm working on a research project now related to a travel book, and just a month ago I was meeting with the leaders of another group in central Argentina, the Ranculche group that traditionally were known as Ranqueles, and it is amazing because you talk to people in Buenos Aires, for example, and you tell them, oh well, I was interviewing Ranqueles Indians, and they will look at me and say, oh, are there any left? And actually, there are about 14,000 people that identify themselves as Ranqueles. So, again, is in Argentina the presence of the indigenous people only in the last 20, 30 years, it has been more valued and given more representation, legal representation also. So in a way, there is kind of a attempt to save what is left from, but the reality is that most of these communities still live in extreme poverty and in a very remote part of the country, or in some cases they have moved to the cities and kind of integrated into let's call it white society, right? Because they have been displaced.
Okay. And do you think the same phenomenon that happens here in Mexico happens there? That there is a certain rejection for these cultures? Like here, there is definitely in Mexico discrimination against the indigenous population, right? They are considered less educated, with less access to everything. You already talked about poverty, but is there this by the people in the country? Is there this rejection?
Oh yes, this? Definitely, and of course, still in some areas, telling somebody that they are an Indio is an insult, seen as an insult. Yeah.
Okay, so the same thing happens.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that is the word. And which of these groups would you consider is the most representative?
It's very difficult to say because there are basically, I will say, 4 regions that in the northeast is the region where the Guarani groups, the different, and like the Mayans, there are no central group, but basically several cultures that share mostly a language or a family of languages. So the Guarani group that covers northeast Argentina, southeast Brazil, and parts of Paraguay. And there is a significant population, and actually Guarani as a language is still, well, it's one of the official languages of Paraguay and is still spoken in northeast Argentina. In northwest Argentina is the Coya population. That Coya comes from, it was the southernmost part of the Inca Empire. So basically, they still speak Quechua, and since the Inca Empire was divided in 4 regions, and the southern region was called Colla Suyo, these Indians are the Coyas, but there are also the Aguitas, some other groups that were kind of incorporated or not into the Inca Empire, and then we have in the southern part of Argentina and southern part of Chile, the Mapuches, which are one of the biggest communities and actually one of the communities with more visibility because they have been the most active in the fights for the rights. And they speak, the family of languages that they speak, their name are under Mapudungun, usually. And in the center of Argentina, there were several different groups, Tehuelches, Pehuenches, Ranculches, the one that I mentioned before, Pampas, and they speak those were the tribes that suffer most during the genocide in the 19th century. But there are still communities, and they speak languages that are also the Mapuche family, Mapudungun family.
Interesting. I had heard about Guarani, but I just didn't know where it was exactly located. Interesting. And just like Nahuatl and Mayan and those languages that are spoken here in Mexico, because they vary completely from Spanish. Is Guarani the same thing? Do they vary a lot, or are there things in common?
Yeah, but actually in the case of Guarani, since it's again an official language in Paraguay and spoken in northern Argentina. There is even in the same way that we have Spanglish.
Okay.
There is the Yopara, which is the mix of Spanish and Guarani. And if you speak to people of those regions, you will see that they switch from one language to another. And
What is it called, the combination?
Yopara.
Jopara. Interesting.
And so is it, I mean, I don't know very much about Argentina or the Southern Cone, but are there place names that remain from these cultures?
Yes. Yeah,
plenty of them, okay.
Plenty of
So
them.
similar to Mexico in that respect as well. Both
It's one of the only areas in which we have a very strong influence of Indian languages. Yeah.
Okay.
What's a very difficult name to pronounce? For example, here for many foreigners, Popocatépetl is very hard to say. Is there a place or
Not that I can think of.
that is super hard to pronounce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably
well,
not for
actually,
you.
In Guarani, they have 10 vowels because each vowel have the a nasal form. So it's a and a. And they pronounce the y, the nasal e, which is very difficult to pronounce for.
Okay. When they say Paraguay, they pronounce it like that?
No, not in the case of Paraguay, but for example, there is a famous water dam, which is called, we call it in Spanish, Yacireta, but actually it's Yacireta with the nasal Y. Yeah.
Wow.
And they switch just like that. And
You see, you found something very difficult to pronounce. I don't think I can pronounce that. Okay. Well, that's been very interesting. Anything to add, Nathaniel?
No, I found it. I mean, I've only recently started to read books from. I mean, I've tried to read a lot of books, novels, and poetry from Mexican culture, and I've only started to read some stuff from South America and Argentina. But we're going to have you back in a couple of weeks, right?
Yep.
And we'd love to be able to talk a little bit more about that, because I know that is your area of specialty.
And Alice, anything to add?
No, just thank you for being here, and thank you for the workshop that you are giving us. And thank you for the listeners, and that's it.
Okay, and before we go, just one final question. You mentioned you are also, well, doing a lot of things here, but you're also with the gastronomy area doing these seminars. I would like to ask, for a person who loves food and teaches about food and history of food, what is your favorite Mexican dish or anything?
No doubt. That's very simple. Guacamole. Guacamole is the most fantastic Mexican invention.
Well, it's a very good invention. I agree with that. Well, thank you very much for being here with us, and thank you, Doctor, for being here.
Hope to see
He'll be
many
back
people.
in 2 weeks, by the way. If you like the show, he'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be back as well.
And we look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow at the Nican Festival.
Yes, don't forget, tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2:30, it's an open invitation. Come and be with us, and we'll be back next week.